Well, I'm really happy to welcome Fernando Vossa to share with us a little bit about his creative process. Fernando is a creator. You can see some of his artwork behind him, and he has multiple palettes and multiple ways that he creates. And I'm really excited to bring to be able to bring out some of his techniques and even a DNA clearing that we're going to do at the end for you to activate with your creative potential. Both of us share a passion for creation, and it is I know both of our hearts desire that we inspire more creativity and more creations in the world, because that's how we're going to kind of build the new earth together, and we do need each other. So it is a pleasure to welcome Fernando. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being open to sharing your wisdom with us.
Aelah, thank you for having me here. We are living in the age of awakening. What this means that each one of us is going through a very personal, deep process of unlocking all of the capabilities that we didn't even know existed in our lives. So imagine if back in the first grade, even in kindergarten in school, the first lesson was the question from the teacher, what do you guys want to learn? Would be the opener. And have all the students just in their best way to communicate it to the teacher, what is inside their heart that they wish to know about. And, I have a friend who participates in the Star Knowledge Conference, Chief Golden Light Eagle. He did this exercise. And, the kids from different ages, from like 5 all the way to junior high, made their top 10 list. And at the top, you know what was in there? UFOs, Sasquatch, and a whole bunch of other things that had nothing to do with math and science, right? So this opens up a conversation of, if we are born perfect creators, the first thing is to acknowledge that we are made of the same energy, the same thought, the same heart-based intention that is bringing about this whole creation multiverse that we're living in. That piece is inside of us. So the beginning of this conversation of creativity is that immediate acknowledgement. We are a version, a piece of what created us. That means we have access, infinite access to a wellspring, a fountain that we can drink from for the rest of our lives. If the universe has manifested entire forests and planets and nebulas and galaxies, imagine the kind of things that are inside each one of us that's ready to get out. What do you think? Is that a good opener for what we're about to unfold?
Yes, I think it is. And
So,
I think there's been a piece of us that's been duped into thinking, back to your piece about the asking people what they want to learn, that's been duped into thinking that we are here to be workers instead of being here to be creators. And we get to claim that, I think, in a much bigger way than we have going forward. And
mhm.
that's kind of where my passions lie, in awakening people into that reality.
Yes, there are certain triggers that are more red pill style of awakening, which
Mm.
is the harsher, more shaken awake through trauma, through dysfunctionality, through abuse, through tragedy, etc. Something that happens in our lives, and usually it's in our childhood. And let's really begin at the womb, inside our moms. Imagine that we are conditioned, prepared to enter a complicated life, a complicated planet. And many who experience birth through cesarean or other traumatic means, right? Problems with their mom and so forth. Imagine that child's creative spirit gets guided into survival in responding to trauma, right? So our creativity, normally the default is victimhood consciousness creativity
Mhm.
out of survival. And really
Mhm.
the range of solutions that come out of that. And let's really jump to the extreme of this. When someone reaches a point in their lives that they say they don't no longer want to participate here, they want to commit suicide. That's really acknowledging the extreme of what happens with your mind when it becomes the enemy within. And we've narrowed down our choices to 2 things, right? So let's look at the inverse of that, the healing and transformation of that. What would it be like to have a mind that is an appendage of the heart. This brain really is for the heart. And how about taking our neural pathways, visualizing our left hemisphere and our right hemisphere joining together at what's known as the corpus callosum and creating a third brain. This is what can be taught to children to become a holistic being of infinite creativity. So that when children say, Mom, I want to go to school and learn how to dance or paint, and most parents just say, well, you're going to be broke, and I'm sorry that you're choosing that. I would rather have you be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, right? That squashing now can be an invitation of celebrating someone's creativity early. So I'm starting to unfold a language here that the solutions are already in place for us to be those creative beings. And the destination here is to materialize matter from thought.
Mm,
That's what art can be about. How's that
mhm.
feel?
That feels beautiful. One of the questions I have is how do people jump from the track of trauma, so to speak, to the what it might maybe karma to dharma, to from that track of being in survival to the creation, the inspiration, the vision of I think dharma is a great word for it, the path of the soul. And
Yes.
how do we change tracks? I think that's a big question because I think there's a lot of people kind of in the middle of that process.
I'm going to share a few techniques that I've evolved during an entire lifetime of being an artist.
Hmm.
First is to deconstruct reality. Take anything that you feel is unchangeable in your life, your religion, the labels that were placed upon you by your parents and people in authority, any description of what you are. Imagine that we have free will to define who and what we are. That's the first step in creativity, to know that you are in full freedom from Creator as a birthright to define who you are. The
Hmm.
second level of creativity is to identify and acknowledge by birthright that you can define your own path. Nothing that your parents taught you, school, religion, society, culture, none of that should supersede what you define as your path, the way you would like to lead your life. And those two things are combined. And suddenly you realize that you can start asking deeper questions that deconstruct things in your brain, to take it apart, to reveal like an onion. You start peeling through a series of investigations in your life. What is real about you? What is infinite about you? How much of what's surrounding you that you thought was unchangeable is really variable? So when you step into the platform, a type of lifestyle, when everything becomes something that you examine with a lens, and even Van Gogh said he was a scientist exploring the nature of reality and the universe through color and shape and form. Artists are scientists, and they are just as valid as a scientist in a Large Hadron Collider exploring the natural forces. Someone who picks up a paintbrush, who dances, who heals, is asking the question, why does anything exist? And that's the door to creativity. That's the full, deepest deconstruction question we could ask. Why does anything exist?
Mm. I like what you're saying that in a way it's all art. It's all creativity and really busting out this idea of art being one thing. And I know from my own experience, I claimed a new name last year and I named myself. This wasn't a name that came out of any tradition, any
Mm-hmm.
guru, any spiritual practice, spiritual lineage. It was something that came to me directly. And it actually came 2 years ago. And for a whole year, I wrestled with, do I have the power to name myself? And I think it's getting at that essential question, what you're saying is, it got so deep in me that I was asking, like, who am I to name myself? And then I finally came out and realized, like, this is it was claiming that power to fully create myself. And there was something huge that came along with that claiming of that birthright, as you say. So I wanted to add that piece
Yes.
because that's been a recent experience of mine to claim every part of myself, or start that
Oh,
process.
yeah.
Hmm.
When you start deconstructing things by questioning them,
Hmm.
the platform is to awaken. It's the first step. If you want to look at the Vedic tradition, it is the root chakra. That's when you come and sprout from earth. The second is activate. To activate means to know, and I'm seeing the internet misbehaving, to know that you have direct access to what makes you. Because when you look at the sun, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones came from the center of a star. When we hear that romantic poetry language, you're made of stardust, we literally are the
Mm.
same body as everything else in this universe. So why not communicate with it as your family and start playing with this activation idea that all of the forces of nature, of electricity and light and gravity and sound, what you learn in physics, you acknowledge that you are that. That is your body. That is the edge of your soul. And within that, it's the kitchen. It's God's kitchen of ingredients, of spices, gravity, light, crystal energy, sound, magnetism, quantum energies. We don't have names. That's the ingredients that'll go into this kind of work behind me. And let me just expand a little bit those neurons, blow some gaskets. Behind me are two paintings I did out of a quadriptych series called Eating from the Tree of Immortality. We have learned in scripture about the tree of knowledge of good and evil that the archetype of Adam and Eve consumed. And it was like a psychedelic, like eating a mushroom or something. Imagine what that experience was like. But in scripture, there are other trees in the Garden of Eden. One of them is the tree of life, the tree of immortality. And if we were to eat from that, what would that awakening look like when we become immortal beings? These two paintings are my interpretation of that experience, because that's where I'm feeding from, the tree of life, to teach me how to do all the things I'm doing. And what happens when you do that activation stage of your life, like you said, you gave yourself a new name. I consciously, about 20 years ago, decided that everything that I am about, my soul energy, my star family I'm related to across the universe, all of the ancestors that came before me that are inscribed in my DNA, all of the relationship I have with beings on the other side, angels or whatever you want, ascended masters, all of that is being invoked from now on in my life.
Mm.
Because the next question that we ask after why does anything exist is how would I like it to be? That is the most powerful activation question one could ask. I don't like the financial system. I don't like the legal system. I can't stand my life. How would you like it to be?
Yes, I like that
Answer
you're.
that question for everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
how important is it that we propose solutions? I think that's the key to shifting out of um, that karmic place of criticizing and looking at the old system and what's wrong, to switching into what do I choose to create? What do I propose moving forward for our economy, for how I work with my money, for how I handle my issues, so to speak. And I really love what you're saying about these two trees in the Garden of Eden, because I feel we took a turn at some point in our history where we got to choose which path. And in the Bible, in Genesis, it says that the two original sins are women having pain in birthing, as you mentioned earlier, so that original trauma, and the toil and sweat of our brow working the earth. So the work and childbirth, which are these two traumas that I think so many of us are still playing out. And I think what you're saying here is that um, we're seeing this, as I'll call it, the karmic path, the path of trauma, and creating and survival, and shifting into the path of life, the path of the tree of life. Would you agree? How's
Oh,
that landing with
yes.
you? Yeah.
I love it because now we can position free will and duality as an opportunity. The greatest gift that Creator gave us is free will and duality,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can explore what is it like to move away from light. When you experience struggle and abuse and so forth, you really are taking that rubber band and stretching it away from the source,
Mm-hmm.
so that at some point you're going to let it go and come back. And this is the third stage I'm going to describe in a process of what I call resonating life, to resonate with the true intention of Creator. The third level after your awakening, and you've already started activating and turning things on in your mind and in your heart, is to create an intention for yourself, a mission of aligning, so that everything you do from now on, any email you write, any creation of music or dance or projects, which we're going to talk about in a minute,
Mm-hmm.
your goal should be to evolve this entire planet with everything that you do. This next email I'm going to write, if it was followed to the letter, it would change the world. This next painting I'm going to do, it's going to be received because it is a postcard from the future where the world is liberated and we are immortal humans living 1,000-year lives and beyond. That is the leap in consciousness in our lives when we intend everything for planetary liberation, for personal self-realization, not for entertainment, not for money, not to look good, not for ego, right? Then suddenly, when you do that in your life, everything becomes a beacon of light for others. And we do this through what I call the Leading Edge Project. And this is where we transfer from energetic understanding, beautiful wisdom, into bricks and mortar, real three-dimensional, fourth-dimensional things here on Earth, right? Because at some point, doesn't matter how many videos you watch, doesn't matter how many books you read, how many gurus you follow, if you are not evoking change in life, in this planet, in your physical body, as Creator intended us,
Mm-hmm.
then it's just mental, that beautiful word is just mental masturbation. It's pleasurable, but it's not doing anything, right?
It's fantasy, and it's a form of escapism at that point, or a form of yeah,
Yes.
whatever. Mm.
So every creation that comes through me has a planetary liberation intention to connect anyone who experiences anything I do to visualize the next stage in this awakening creative process. And that is now we're moving up into the green center of the heart to harmonize. Then you realize that by the time you get to the next stage in the chakra system, from the heart to the blue of opening up your message to the world, you've already honed in coherence, like a laser, a blue light of this is why we exist. I am the answer why. I am the reason. And when we say I, we mean we, the harmonization of all the God selves that are here. That's the next stage in creativity. One can no longer be an island unto themselves as a creator. One would be a hermit and disappear. How about engaging with 7 billion ancestors that are alive right now with you? And then the trillions of ancestors that came before you. And then when you say, I want this, I would like that, you're speaking from the global, universal I.
Mm.
the I that represents the planet, the I that speaks for the First Nations of this universe, right? Suddenly your paintings, your creations, your projects take on a whole new meaning when you speak from that, when you come from that I, you know?
Well, and as we learn to connect with the multidimensional parts of our lineage, our ancestry, our star ancestry, our the ancestry on the land, all of those layers that we're starting to connect with and work with and see ourselves in the midst of, there's also a healing of the separation, and also that healing, I believe, extends to our fellow humans, and that is what will create these incredible bridges of understanding in our world, which is so desperately um, where we're at. Where
Oh,
what
yes.
what planet Earth really needs to learn is how to heal the separation.
Yes. And by the time you get to the first I of envisioning, of going in within the universe and picking from a palette of infinite spectrum, it's no longer just a rainbow of colors. For example, I paint in ultraviolet a great deal because those are the color spectrums I see in my lucid dreams. Very
Mm,
high frequency color.
mm, mhm,
When I create structures as an architect, I work with shapes that came from off world ideas. So it is that fearlessness, that permission slip that you give to yourself to work with universal concepts as your palette, to play with cosmic vocabulary as your words, the light language, right? And I'm 55, and the beauty of this age is that you don't really give a whatever what people think about you, right?
mm,
I'm sending this knowing to myself when I was a little boy, 5, 7, 8 years old, right?
mhm,
And acknowledging, creating a superpositioned, entangled self. I am healing my past every day, sending that little Fernando, look at what you're doing right now, is what I'm telling that little boy. Look at who
mm,
you are. Look at your ideas. You're sitting on some of the most advanced technology on this planet. In all your creations, your Vossahedron Healing Dome project that we'll talk about in a minute. And you've become the friend that you've always wanted growing up.
mm,
As a matter of fact, I'm also having that exact same conversation through my first eye of envisioning with my future self 1,000 years from now, 1,000,000 years from now. Like I got into a spaceship and left the planet with my star friends and came back 1,000,000 years, you wouldn't even recognize me. I wouldn't recognize myself. I would say I would be an angel in a energetic plasma crystal state that can teleport anywhere in the universe. That's the guy that I'm speaking to when I come up with these ideas like the one behind me.
mm,
This is what happens at the next stage of creativity, to
mhm,
lock in a signal
mhm,
and ask your benevolent, loving self from other dimensions, help me, show me
mhm,
what I need to know. You know you're speaking to Creator when you're asking yourself, because I no longer rely on the idea, oh, I have ADD, HDSD, some kind of attention. Hell no. I have a 1,000,000 year focus in what I'm doing. I'm thinking about the planet 1,000 years from now and 10,000 years from now. This is how the ancients created.
mm.
How does that feel now that we're jumping into another octave of creativity?
It feels great. I love the piece that you're sharing about going back into your younger self and sharing with him what you're doing now. That's something I've been doing in healing work for a really long time. That I think that's widely accepted, that we go to our childhood and we heal, but this piece
Yeah.
about going forward, I think, is even more hopeful. Like our future self is shining on us, wanting to show us the way, and we can kind of unify all of this. As we know, time is not real, and we can bring all of that into the now moment, and work with all of it.
When you're taught, well, you got to be grounded. You got
Mm,
to be a realist.
mhm,
As a little boy, even I would say, grounded to what? This mess?
mhm,
This planet in chaos? As I got older, I learned that you can ground up to a different version of who and what you are.
Right. Well, I was just having this question about grounding this morning because the word grounding is thrown around a lot. And the truth is we get to choose what I call and train with. We get to choose what we want to participate in, what aspects of this creation, this planet we want to entrain with. And I like to teach people to entrain with the natural world because there is love and there is presence here on the earth that is worthy of and training with, of creating with, and it can be one of the
Yes.
most inspirational places to go for um, to connect and to understand. Because here we are on the earth, and then there's aspects of this planet that we choose not to entrain with, that we choose not
Oh,
to ground
yeah.
with. And I think that this blanket term of grounding needs a little finer definition, more subtle definition.
I would define it as expanding. Why don't
Mm,
you expand
mm,
and become something bigger?
mm,
One of the biggest Achilles heels of individuals exercising their creativity is that how do you see yourself? Could I take the lens of creator? Could I see myself as God sees us? The perfect beings of light that are infinite, that are a reflection of creator being. That vision, what does that look like?
mhm.
The edge of your soul. If you came to face with the edge, the face of your infinity, I'll give you an idea. When you're walking around Earth on the surface, you're a two-dimensional, three-dimensional being. But when you look up to the sky, you're looking at something that is infinite. All of those galaxies and stars and blueness, day or night. That is as close as we can come to showing you what you really look like. If you want to say, what do I really look like? Look up. You are an infinite galaxy walking on two legs here on Earth, focused in this beautiful presentation.
Mhm.
And anytime you need a reminder, as a little boy, I remember standing on the street looking up and thinking, if I was to jump up in the air and just keep flying forever, how long would it be before I hit something? Maybe never. I may never hit a planet or a star. I could be going for eons.
Mhm.
That's about how big we are. How old are we? Our age is immeasurable. How
Mhm.
big are we? We are as big as all creation. And we have access to all of it. That library, the Akashic inheritance, is available to us anytime we want to.
Yes.
Somewhere in your ancestry, you have geniuses and writers and poets and creators who liberated planets. As a matter of fact, your remembering can go all the way back to the cosmic womb and the birth of all of it. And it is difficult for our mind to capture these concepts because we are so narrowed down now in surviving to go to work and make money and living this particular lifestyle of technology. But as soon as one starts studying that everything we are taught is not that old, our science is a couple hundred years old. Our religion as we know it, 1,000, 2,000 years at the most. Go look at
Oh,
things that are 10,000 years old, you
yeah,
know?
or transport your go to India, for instance, where they're based on a whole framework of spirituality, and that they have cities they can produce, scents out of their hands, and they can bend the reality in ways that the Western mind has not even allowed for. So we are even seeing that on our planet, different paradigms that allow for different realities. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
want
So I'm going to jump.
Okay, I
Oh,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna jump too. So maybe we're jumping to the same place, but you're speaking of the Akashic records, and I think one of the ways we access that is through our DNA. And you were offering to do a DNA activation for creativity, which I would love to invite you to do now if it feels right.
It definitely does.
Hmm.
This is also a telepathic message, a teleempathic message. Creativity, the creative process, resides in every cell in your body. Each cell in your plasma is a being of creativity. And each cell in our body, in our muscles, in our bones, in our neural tissue is photoreceptive. That means that every cell in our body can see light. And our skin is the membrane, the derma. Think of it as the dream, the boundary between the inner verse and the outer verse. And our cells are looking through your skin at creation. So the first step we're going to do in this activation is to acknowledge the trillions of eyes and tune in for a moment. Take a deep breath. What does that image look like? The collective image of the trillions of cells sending that transmission to Creator. Step 2. We are now going deeper into the quantum scale of who we are, just below the DNA molecules. Our bodies are designed to last over 1,000 years. Connect right now to a mind that can think in 1,000-year increments, so that your projects from now on are 1,000-year plus projects. Each creation you put forward from now on is going to be an orchestra, a concert of harmonizing the trillions of cells and the quadrillions of molecules that we are as a universe on 2 legs. Take this being that we've just packaged, have just liberated, and become a human that is energy in freedom. Become your own leading edge project, so that anyone speaks to you from now on will hear the version of you sending postcards from the future of an awakened, ascended self that you already are. The projects that we speak about, the intentions that we have from now on, require a body that has a superconductive immune system. No longer will bacteria and virus stick to you, because as a 1,000-year millennia being, you are in training other bodies around you, other minds, to expand the definition of reality. We are already in an ascended planet as we speak. You are already the extraterrestrial you are seeking. We each is a UFO on the ground. Activate that knowing. Become a open portal, an aperture of light, so that everything around you that seems distorted from the alignment of source, love, and compassion, let that go through your own aperture of the heart that you are, and reflect it back as what it could be. We are universal artists who have taken activism at a cosmic level. I welcome each one of us as benevolent, loving, compassionate artivists. We are the cutting edge brushstroke of God on earth. And so it is.
Hmm. Thank you, Fernando. I feel gratitude for your vision and your ability to be such a incredibly long distance visionary. It's inspiring to me as I recently, I'm only sharing this because I feel like some people might relate to it as well, but I recently transcended a place in myself. It was literally a block in my spine that I was carrying, and my ability to kind of see and expand beyond, because it felt very unsafe, to go that far beyond. Um, and I saw where that was my big creative block, was ability to hold the vision. When we think of like Martin Luther King, incredible activist, created and painted this beautiful vision for a new reality, because he had the vision of Black children and white children holding hands, of us going to the promised land, and he spoke about it, and
You give me chills.
I know, he painted that, and it lives in all of us, doesn't it? And it gave us all a vision of what.
Anyone who has not heard a complete Martin Luther King speech needs to pull one up. Doesn't
Mhm,
matter which one.
mhm. But he gets
Yeah.
this, right? That's why he is one of the biggest social change activists of our whole history that we can remember, is that he got this idea of vision, of crafting vision to the future. And so I feel grateful for those of us who, like yourself, who are learning to craft the larger vision and the longer distance vision, um, because why not? Let's aspire to something worth aspiring to, rather than the
I would
next
like
thing.
to share with
Go ahead.
everyone a very simple mantra that has two statements.
Mhm.
It is a heartbeat, two ventricles going back and forth
Mhm.
to remind you that you are not separate from creativity. You are creativity itself. You are pure creation itself. You are not separate from the forces of nature. You are the forces of creation. So here we go. I am the center of mass creation. I am an engine of mass creation. I am the center of mass creation. I am an engine of mass creation. I am the center of mass creation. I'm an engine of mass creation. And repeat yourself these statements anytime you need creativity, anytime you need reminder. You are that.
Hmm. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Oh my gosh. Even I was like, wow, where did all that download come from? Well, the reason why I can speak seamlessly, there are no and when I speak. Where am I reading from? Those who are experiencing this material for the first time, where are the capabilities of flowing seamlessly, endlessly? People asking me, well, Fernando, are you afraid of people copying your ideas? No, go for it. I come from an infinite place of ideas.
Mhm.
Are you afraid of not raising enough money for your projects? No, I am infinite wealth. My bank vaults are filled to the brim with creativity. I could write checks every day of ideas that are viable and ready to be flung into the ethers at this moment. Become that. Become a fountain of continual creativity. This will be taught in schools at some point. Quantum creativity, conscious regeneration of all of our abilities. Here's that language. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
invite anyone who is interested, look up Vossa lectures on YouTube. There's over 100 there with material. And in a separate video, we're going to be talking about a project called the Vossahedron project. That is to build a dome structure to heal and regenerate our bodies. And it is a transporter mechanism to amplify consciousness. That's
Mhm.
the leading edge project I'm putting on the table at the moment. What's yours? What's your leading edge vision?
That's a good question. I'll leave
Yeah.
that as a rhetorical question for everyone listening. Um, and yeah, check him out. I'll put some links in the notes. You can connect with Fernando and his project if you want to be inspired.
Thank you. I'm easily reachable. Fernando Private at gmail.com. Hit
Okay.
me up on Facebook also.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing
Aelah,
with us today.
I love
Yes.
this.
hmm It is good to.
You have asked a very deep question. What is creativity? How can we take it to another level? And I'm so grateful to you for opening up this door.
You're welcome. And thank you for being on the other side of this door, and for sharing with me and co-creating with me. Isn't it fun?
Namaste.
Namaste.